Welcome back, my friends. So there's been a lot of talk, a lot of questions. I've been seeing a lot of comments out there concerning the Sega Genesis Mini and the progress with hacking. When can we expect a hack? What's available now? All that good stuff. So today what I want to do is quickly go over the two different projects that are currently being worked on, with one of them actually being available right now. But the two projects are going to be Mod My Classics Project Lunar and then also HackChi for the Sega Genesis Mini. Now with Project Lunar, this is the project that a lot of people are waiting for. There is no specific deadline or release date for this mod, but it does seem like they're fairly far along. And I want to share with you guys all the features and all the things that I know about it right now. And then also talk about HackChi, as HackChi is currently available, but there's only so much you can do with it. So we'll touch on that in a bit. So the features and the updates that we can expect with Project Lunar, we're going to have both internal and external modding. They said this is all finalized and working. Internal, we're going to be able to mess around with the internal memory, add our games, cores, whatever we want to do. External, we're going to be able to do the same thing with external memory. So they have also stated in a recent update that there's going to be multi-firmware support, and I find that fairly interesting. You're going to be able to run up to 9 different regions or custom firmwares off of an external drive. So different regions or special things that have been made by the community could be pretty cool. So we'll have to wait and see on that. So it'll be like something like, I suppose, where you could flash the Asian release version. You could select that firmware on a US Sega Genesis Mini and have that set up that way and play the games that were released from that if you have those firmwares. Could be pretty cool. They've also optimized the memory for better performance, and they are also working on a desktop app to streamline everything. That is what's being developed right now. They're also going to have where, with booting up, there's going to be an options screen. So on first boot, you'll be asked what item do you want to directly boot to. The stock user interface, RetroArch, which a lot of people want RetroArch, but I think a lot of people with this mod are specifically looking for being able to manipulate the stock user interface, adding games, all that good stuff. That's what I'm looking forward to. We have plenty of devices out there that can use RetroArch. I'm not really thrilled about just having base vanilla RetroArch, but they also state there is a possibility of Emulation Station having that front end. So I think that could be pretty cool. That could be pretty cool for sure. But I'm mainly looking at stock user interface manipulation, adding games and artwork and stuff like that. So you'll be greeted to the screen that asks you what you want to boot into. And every time you start up the system, you'll boot into whatever you selected. And they also have where if you want to go back to those boot options, you'll simply hold a button on startup to bring it up when you're powering it on. This menu, it'll also give you some other options, such as adjusting the CPU clock speed, enabling SSH, and they're stating hopefully in the future a save state manager where you can delete save states and manage them, right? So the other thing that they note right now is that editing, the included 4D ROMs will not be supported on initial release. This is kind of important. You know, some people want to be able to remove the stuff they don't care about to free up space. Some people just want to leave it alone. I typically don't want to mess with any of that. But on an initial release, it's not going to be supported. You're not going to be able to manipulate the 4D games that are on the system to free up any kind of space. So if you're using the internal memory, you're going to be stuck with what we have available. And what they're stating is with the internal mod, where you're utilizing the internal memory for adding the games, cores, and saves, the hacking team believes you will have around 190 megabytes of storage. This could change by the time the public hack is released, but look forward to around that range. 190 megabytes is what they believe they're going to have available to you when everything is said and done for you to add your games. If you're just doing Sega Genesis, adding some artwork, I think that'll be plenty, but for sure with every release of these classic mini systems, we're dwindling down on the space that is available on the system, and that's just where it's at. 190 megabytes to play around with, so keep that in mind. Now, also with the external mod, you could use OTG, external hubs on the front ports. There is no power restrictions to worry about. So we're not going to have to do any kind of internal mods or other extra steps like we had to do with the PlayStation Classic. So that is going to be a plus. Not having those power restrictions on the ports is definitely going to be helpful. Some people don't want to tinker around, and that's unfortunately what we had to do with the PlayStation Classic. So that is pretty cool. They also state the process of adding a single ROM to the stock UI involves many steps, and it's far more complicated of a process than with previous classic consoles. But with all the work that they're doing, they're going to make it where with this hack, the end user will not even be aware of everything that is happening with these processes, as you know, they're making sure everything is streamlined and fairly simple for all the end users to be able to hack their systems. So definitely cool. Kudos to them for working hard and getting all this complex stuff to be very simplified for the end user. The way they are hoping for this hack to be implemented by the end user is simply you'll take your console, plug it into your PC while holding the reset button, and then you would run their desktop program, which will back up and install everything needed to start adding to your console. Cool stuff for sure. While they state there's no exact deadline, there's no release dates, they want to make sure the release to the public is something that is completely ready to go and simple to use. They're working 24/7, so there's a lot of appreciation there for the work that they're doing. It seems like there will be some features that will be added later on, like the save state stuff, manipulation with external memory, being able to delete saves, the possibility of emulation station. For sure, there will be some tweaks and new stuff to look forward to, but the initial release is just supposed to be boom. This thing has been thoroughly tested. Everything, has been working. They've done tons of work to make sure this is a safe process and an awesome hack for everybody to use. So while we are waiting for this, we don't know a specific date. Hey, there is a lot of appreciation for them not just dumping this to the public and having essentially everybody being beta testers, because then what happens is you have people who are beta testing and don't really realize the repercussions of that, and they possibly do something to their system that they can't figure out themselves. It seems like with the modding of the Sega Genesis Mini, all the stuff that I've looked at, it's reversible, everything being backed up. Like, to actually brick the system completely is a very slim chance. But if you just threw this out there, you would have people who couldn't figure out how to revert it. It would just cause tons of headaches, because then people would be asking for help and they wouldn't be able to continue working on this mod and hack. So I completely understand why they haven't thrown anything out there for the public to mess around with yet. They want to make sure everything is safe and working to the best that they could possibly get it. So definitely look forward to that. Now, the final thing that I do want to talk about is HackChi for the Sega Genesis Mini. This was just released. So we've used HackChi for the NES, Super Nintendo Classic, and now we can use it in a limited capacity for the Sega Genesis Mini. Now, I don't know how interested people are going to be with this, because essentially all this is going to do right now is turn your Sega Genesis Mini into a RetroArch device. I have zero interest in that, as I can run RetroArch on tons of things, on my PlayStation Classic, so on and so forth. This specific mod with HackChi does not allow any user interface modifications. We can't change the games on the system. We cannot add games to the system. All we can do is add RetroArch and a bunch of cores. Yeah, some neat stuff. You could play Super Nintendo on your Sega Genesis Mini. Nice. You could play Nintendo 64. Nice. These things are also going to be available with the Project Lunar build. So for me, it's more of a thing like, hey, I would rather wait for that. But if you do want to mess with HackChi, it is CE version 3.6 that was just released. It's a fairly simple process. There's a bunch of modules you can add, but they all, like I said, just RetroArch stuff. So keep that in mind. You can add arcade cores, consoles, Atari, Super Nintendo. You can add the Sega Genesis core to it, which some people will actually prefer doing that. But like I said, I'd much rather do this with the Project Lunar build, because with adding this to the Sega Genesis Mini right now, it's just all through RetroArch. But yes, the Sega Genesis core will actually allow a lot more compatibility than what is available on the Sega Genesis Mini right now. From what I'm hearing, the Sega Genesis Mini's, built-in emulator and how it's all set up can't play everything. So the actual Genesis core, the emulator that you can get through RetroArch, actually has a better time. So that's kind of cool. But like I said, I would prefer having that dual build. Now, not to knock HackChi, because it is a possibility in the future that while they're working on this, it will come to fruition where you can do all the stuff that you would expect, adding games, possibly removing games, and using RetroArch as well, and having everything through the user interface. Right now, that's just not the way it works. Just booting into RetroArch and selecting a game with, the vanilla user interface through that. I can already do that on tons of stuff, so my interest in that is not very high. There's a lot of resources out there if you want to look into doing this. If people want me to do a tutorial on HackChi for the Sega Genesis Mini, let me know, but I would much prefer to wait until HackChi has actually been developed further, not just RetroArch. But if you guys really want to see that, it's simple, not hard to do. I can do a video. It is reversible. You can do all this stuff, install RetroArch, HackChi, and then reverse it in the end. So you can play with that, but let me know. Just want to give you guys this update on what's going on out there. As soon as Project Lunar is released, we will be demonstrating it, testing it out, showcasing the things that you can do. I know there's a lot of people out there doing this kind of stuff, and hey, a lot of you guys come to me, and I really do appreciate that. It means the world to me. So with that said, let me know what you think, and I will catch y'all next time. Peace out, bye-byes, and boom. Bye!